The Eagles announced yesterday that they have found their offensive coordinator, and he is, drum roll please, 33-year-old Sean Mannion. Yes, 33 years old. You probably remember the name. I'm fairly certain he was in the league in 2021. I mean, Colin, this is a super young guy. He will be replacing Kevin Patullo, who was a straight-up disaster. Sirianni is very excited about this hire. And I think part of it has to do with some of the coaches that Sean Mannion played for. Are you ready, Colin? Yeah. During his NFL career? He just happened to be a backup with Sean McVay as his head coach, with Kevin O'Connell as his head coach, with Matt LaFleur as his head coach. So he comes from that McVay tree.
Yes.
It's unclear as of right now if he's going to call plays or not. This guy has 2 years experience as a coach. He was a quarterback coach last year. That's all he's really done, Colin. Is he too young for the job? Does he have enough experience?
Well, I root for people, young people who get jobs. I've always said this. You probably, in your first big job, could be my kids, it could be this coach. Your first big job of your career, you should bail water for about 6 weeks. If you're ready for the job, your first job out of college or your first big job in your mid-20s, late 20s, I mean, big job. If you're totally ready for it, it's not a challenge. So I am always rooting for people that go into jobs where you're like, I'm not sure they're ready. It'll all come down to this. How smart is he? Smart people learn stuff faster. I mean, if he's a smart guy, Philadelphia's whiffed on some coordinator hires. They've hit on some coordinator hires. You'll know by Thanksgiving. I don't expect him to be great in he's not Sean McVay. He worked next to Sean McVay. He is not Sean McVay. But we just don't know. This is one of these. He could be brilliant. But it is Sean McVay's. He's really become one of the coaching tree guys of note in this league, and some of them have worked, and Raheem Morris in Atlanta didn't work, so who knows?
Yeah. Interesting. So he went to Oregon State. I think you have an affinity for the Beavers.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, one of your theories that you like to say is, hey, if a coach hits the open market, how much interest is there? I can't find a lot of interviews that Sean Mannion had this cycle, Colin. So I don't know if this is a job that's maybe above his head. Like you said, bailing water for 6 weeks. Is that going to work on a team that just won the Super Bowl and is supposed to be a contender?
It is a high scrutiny job. Like Philadelphia offensive coordinator is probably the toughest coordinator job in the entire league. I'd argue it is. Philadelphia is different. Yeah. It's even harsher than New York.
I would say it's a very boom bust because right now people coming in like, what kind of
Sean
plays is he going to
McVay
call?
was a coordinator at 27. You can look that up. Shanahan was a coordinator at 28. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to, again, I'm not banging on somebody because they're young. There's brilliant 27, 28, 29-year-olds all over the country.
Agree. Let's move on to the...
All right. He momentarily mentioned Sean Mannion, expressing surprise that he couldn't locate any interviews with the man. Yeah, I couldn't either. Listen, I received numerous inquiries last season regarding my assessment of Kevin Patullo. My response was consistently one of uncertainty. I would state I didn't feel particularly optimistic about it, identifying it as my primary concern. That was my standard, go-to answer whenever questioned about the Eagles' repeat chances or their prospective performance. My position was straightforward. I harbored serious reservations about that offensive coordinator. My perspective on the Philadelphia Eagles' current decision is diametrically opposed. I am thoroughly impressed with their action here. I must emphasize, for the record, I did not hold this favorable view regarding Patullo. I genuinely appreciate their current strategic move. Firstly, listening to the new coordinator articulate his philosophy reveals a distinct and profound mastery of football, specifically quarterback mechanics and offensive theory. Jalen Hurts, let's be clear, remains a quarterback in development, as are all signal callers navigating their careers. There exists no final destination where improvement ceases. The notion that one arrives and plateaus does not correspond to reality in any profession, certainly not for a quarterback in his 20s. It wasn't true for Tom Brady, and it isn't true for Jalen Hurts. Substantial room for refinement persists. When you listen to former quarterbacks, individuals like Dan Orlovsky, Nick Foles, Kurt Warner, analyze the game, you discern a tangible disparity in the coaching insights they can impart and the schematic understanding they bring to a coordinating role. Possessing a hybrid individual who embodies both a coach-quarterback mentor and a coordinator play caller represents a significant advantage. Furthermore, it is imperative for Jalen to have a figure who will enforce accountability. Someone unafraid to assert, "No, that was incorrect. You executed improperly. Repeat it. Do it again." Demanding accountability is paramount. This is why I consistently emphasized the necessity of holding players accountable, a principle applicable to all coaches. For those unfamiliar with my emphasis on coaching accountability, it is a foundational concept in my analysis, and I perceived a distinct absence of that capacity in Kevin Patullo. Shane Steichen possessed it. Kellen Moore possessed it, albeit to a perhaps lesser degree. This recent appointment excites me precisely because it suggests that quality. Acknowledging his limited play-calling resume is necessary. He called plays for some collegiate championship game or similar scenario. The specifics are somewhat nebulous, and frankly, of secondary importance to me, as non-NFL experience operates on a different plane. The Eagles also made a complimentary move by hiring the former offensive coordinator from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as their passing game coordinator. This individual collaborated with Liam Cohen, who served as the Buccaneers OC last season, and, in my estimation, performed admirably given the constraints, primarily Baker Mayfield's inherent limitations. The new passing game coordinator specifically managed third and fourth down play calling under Cohen, whose coaching acumen I respect. This creates a valuable safety net. Should a scenario arise akin to last season with Patullo, where play calling proves ineffective, you now have an experienced alternative within the building. He and the new coordinator can collaborate, providing diverse perspectives and collective experience, an invaluable asset. Therefore, even in a worst-case situation where the new coordinator appears overwhelmed, a fallback option exists with actual play-calling experience. The ultimate safety net, of course, remains head coach Nick Sirianni. The inherent beauty of this hiring structure is its clear contingency. Either it succeeds spectacularly, propelling the Eagles to victories, or it fails, resulting in the coordinator's dismissal, thereby freeing the organization to pursue the next acclaimed offensive mind. The focus on the coordinator's age, approximately 33, is noteworthy. This reflects the contemporary landscape. The most coveted coordinators are young. No one clamors for a 65-year-old offensive coordinator. Established names like Greg Roman or Todd Monken, now a head coach again, don't generate comparable excitement. Mike McCarthy, also a head coach, falls into a similar category. The coordinators that genuinely energize a fan base are typically in their 30s. That is the current reality. My impression is that the Eagles conducted an exhaustive interview process, exercising genuine due diligence. I believe they selected this candidate based on substantive discussions, his demonstrable football intellect, and his articulated vision. The decision seems rooted in a conviction of his capabilities, not merely his association with prestigious names like Sean McVay or Matt LaFleur, though those are favorable affiliations. The sense is they interviewed him and concluded, this individual's philosophy and approach are exceptional. He identifies specific coachable aspects of Jalen's game, mechanics, footwork synchronization with root concepts that have not been fully addressed. These are tangible, practical areas for growth. This contrasts sharply with a recent media narrative suggesting Jalen Hurts is who he is, a take I find intellectually bankrupt. It presupposes a quarterback is impervious to coaching influence, a notion both absurd and ahistorical. Connecting Jalen Hurts with a legitimate, holistic offensive thinker who comprehends the entire ecosystem, not just innovative play design, is pivotal. A coach like Mike McDaniel is brilliant at positioning a quarterback for success, but I am less convinced of his capacity for pure quarterback development. Andy Reid demonstrably develops quarterbacks. I am uncertain about Sean McVay's or Ben Johnson's developmental prowess, though they excel at schematic optimization. A figure like Kevin O'Connell, I believe, can develop a quarterback, as suggested by the J.J. McCarthy situation, though the sample size is small. A crucial distinction exists between placing a player in advantageous situations and actively developing his skill set to foster continuous evolution. This explains why quarterback coaches exist as separate roles. Sam Darnold's resurgence serves as the quintessential example. While many credit Kevin O'Connell or Kyle Shanahan's system, his improvement also stemmed from diligent off-season work with private quarterback coaches like Jordan Palmer. Development extends beyond the coordinator's scheme. Based on what I understand about this hire, he appears capable of integrating all these elements: development, scheme, accountability, into a cohesive whole. This presents an ideal environment for Jalen Hurts. A parallel, though not exact example, is Liam Cohen's dynamic with Trevor Lawrence early last season. A specific on-field disagreement highlighted Cohen's immediate technical correction regarding pass placement, a subtle but critical teaching moment in real time. Not every coordinator is equipped or positioned to provide that granular developmental feedback during a game. Coaches like Kellen Moore, Liam Cohen, and ideally this new coordinator facilitate that dynamic. This can be profoundly impactful for Hurts. The onus, however, ultimately rests on Jalen Hurts' willingness to absorb, learn, and evolve. I place significant responsibility on his shoulders. Even if the new coordinator's play calling proves mediocre, an unknown variable, I expect observable development in Hurts' fundamental quarterbacking. Should that not materialize, I will attribute it more to the player than the coach. My defense of Hurts last season was extensive, but this is separate from statistical output. Statistics are influenced by play calling, supporting cast, and game flow. I am focused on observable technical and procedural improvement. I anticipate analysts like Dan Orlovsky, Greg Cosell, and even broadcasters like Greg Olson, Troy Aikman, and Tom Brady highlighting specific, refined aspects of Hurts' game each week. Improved footwork, better anticipation, more precise ball placement, irrespective of the box score. This represents the necessary next evolution. Given a hypothetical choice between a proven play designer like Mike McDaniel and this developmental-focused coordinator, I believe the latter is currently more beneficial for Hurts' long-term trajectory. This aligns with Dan Orlovsky's recent commentary about Hurts' development being stunted by coordinator instability, which fueled my frustration with the "he is who he is" narrative, a claim implying he is uniquely uncoachable. Previously, Eagles quarterback coach Doug Nussmeier executed excellent work with Hurts in 2024. His subsequent promotion by Kellen Moore, who likely retained play calling, was logical, but Nussmeier's impact was under-discussed, notably highlighted only by Mark Sanchez. This new hire seems to encapsulate a blend of developmental acumen, schematic knowledge, and a collaborative structure. I find this profoundly encouraging. I recognize this wasn't the headline-grabbing, slam-dunk hire of a Ben Johnson. The three widely recognized available offensive names were Brian Daboll, though his status was complex, Mike McDaniel, and Cliff Kingsbury. Failing to secure one of those inevitably feels somewhat anticlimactic. Alternatives like Greg Roman or Todd Monken wouldn't have ignited enthusiasm. Hypothetical scenarios involving retread head coaches like Mike McCarthy, now at HC elsewhere, Doug Peterson, or Frank Reich would also have been met with skepticism. McCarthy might have inspired some comfort as an OC, but that wasn't feasible. Therefore, this hire, while not the most glamorous, inspires legitimate optimism. Crucially, if it proves ineffective, the coordinator will be dismissed, allowing the Eagles to target the next premier offensive mind. Perhaps Clint Kubiak this cycle, or an emergent candidate next season. There is a clear, logical pathway. I appreciate the potential synergy between the new coordinator and Jalen Hurts, extending beyond system installation to encompass developmental coaching. Incorporating the Buccaneers' passing game coordinator, who worked with the respected Liam Cohen, adds valuable external perspective and experience. Even the addition of a coach, who worked with Baker Mayfield, a shorter quarterback, addresses nonsensical narratives about Hurts' ability to see the middle of the field. Assembling a staff with diverse coaching backgrounds and quarterback experiences is immensely beneficial. Consequently, I am placing considerable expectation on Jalen Hurts. While I defended him and assigned blame elsewhere last season, the context has shifted. Barring a scenario where the new coaching staff is demonstrably incompetent or the play calling is abysmal, I expect Hurts to engage fully and demonstrate tangible growth. An intriguing, albeit speculative, long-term consideration exists. If the new coordinator proves to be an exceptional developer and offensive mind, catalyzing Hurts' best performances, the Eagles could face a complex succession decision. Would they consider moving on from Sirianni to promote the coordinator, lest he be hired as a head coach elsewhere? Which teams might have vacancies next cycle? Perhaps the Bengals or the Vikings if their situation deteriorates. This is a hypothetical, good problem to have, likely contingent on playoff success. A Super Bowl victory would complicate replacing Sirianni. Significant regular season success with a playoff failure might create an opportunity for an internal promotion, akin to the Buffalo Bills' recent structural change, though external hires are currently more fashionable. This dynamic provides the Eagles with interesting optionality. Ultimately, this situation necessitates trust in general manager Howie Roseman's judgment. Over an extended tenure, any executive will make poor hires and draft misses. It is inevitable. However, the probability of consecutive catastrophic missteps at the offensive coordinator position seems statistically low. Therefore, I am inclined to believe positive outcomes are forthcoming for Philadelphia. The upcoming season will be revealing. Those are my comprehensive reflections. I am earnestly interested in your viewpoints. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. I read every single comment. Whether you concur with my analysis or vehemently oppose it, I welcome the engagement. Let's delve into detailed discussions and spirited debates, but ultimately, let's ensure the discourse remains enjoyable. Please remember to like this video, as such interaction substantively enhances its visibility and algorithmic distribution. Thank you sincerely for your time and attention. I look forward to our next conversation.